Well, welcome. This is our last Instagram Live for this year. My name is Daniela Costa. I'm the live events coordinator of the audiovisual division of the American Translators Association. And today we'll continue with this series of live interviews we are doing with different associations from around the world. Now it's the time to talk to the people of ATRAE, which is the Asociación de Traducción y Adaptación Audiovisual de España. Sorry, I'm reading the name just not to make mistakes. So this will be a really interesting talk because we'll see what's the scenario is in Spain, where there are many audiovisual translators, and it's a huge industry there. So we'll talk to the president of this association, who is Iris Permuy. I think she's here. So without any further ado, I will invite her to the conversation. Okay, just 1 second. There we are. Hi, Iris.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for your time, for being here. We know it's late where you are. Where are you now
I'm in
Spain?
Barcelona.
Wow. And what time is it there?
7 p.m. It's not that late. Not
okay.
For Spanish standards, anyway.
Okay, that's good. Well, we'd like to talk to you about ATRAE and this association and what you do. But first of all, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Iris Permuy. As you said, I'm 35 years old. I've been a professional translator since 2011, and specifically an audiovisual translator since 2014, and more specifically an audio describer since 2016. I am the president of ATRAE since last May, really recently, and I'm also a member of the board of AVT, Audiovisual Translators Europe.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
You're quite busy. And well, what's the role of ATRAE in their advocacy for audiovisual translation?
Well, we are battling many battles right now. First of all, ATRAE was conceived to be a point of a meeting point for all the audiovisual translators that were like in Spain. We are a lot of audiovisual translators, and we are becoming a very we're becoming a very numerous sector, and while the amount of audiovisual translators started to increase, a group of professionals decided that it was going to be a good idea to just join forces, because otherwise we're just alone in our houses with our computers, and we feel really small. We feel powerless against the ever-growing big translation agencies. So the idea is pretty much that. It's basically that, is to just stop being just freelancers and individuals alone in their houses and become a community, become an actual industry within ourselves. So what we do is for example, one of the main and first achievements of ATRAE was to manage to convince CMOs to pay copyrights for subtitles and not only for dubbing translation. And that was a huge deal. And now we're battling the same battle for video game translation and for audio description and other forms of accessibility. We also advocate for the possibility of collective bargaining, so that we are not just me in my office saying, no, this is a fair rate, and the company saying, no, but nobody pays that. So we need to stop being gaslit by big companies, and that can only be done through like collective action. We also advocate for fair conditions, not only fair rates, but fair deadlines, for authors' rights, not only economic, but also moral and paternity rights. And I mean, how much time do you have? Because we do a lot.
1 hour. We have 1 hour, like 50 minutes now, but it's amazing, all the work you do. What I like most is that you give visibility to translators, and every time I access Twitter, I see something like ¿Quién traduce? Who is the translator? Yeah, and you name the translators and proofreaders and adapters and everything, and that's great because it's a way of showing support for your colleagues, and at the same time saying, okay, our members work on this and this and this huge projects, and that's the quality of translators we have, for example.
Yes, and we do that on Twitter and Instagram, and also what we do is annually we have the Atrae Awards, which were just held like last month.
Yeah.
And where we give awards to the best translation for dubbing, for subtitling, for the best audio description, the best video game translation, the best SDH, and so on and so forth. And it's a huge deal. It's like second Christmas for us. It's really, we organize a gala and we show it. We sometimes, like for example, during the pandemic, we streamed it, but usually it's like in person, and it's very exciting, and it's very touching to see translators, audiovisual translators recognized, because I mean, sometimes, yeah, of course, translation has to needs to be invisible, that the process of translation needs to be invisible. That doesn't mean the translator has to be. Like, yeah. Because we are the authors of the work we do, and we need people to notice we're there, not in our translation, but in our visibility actions, because otherwise we're not valued, and we need to be valued so that our work is valued. So that's why we are very much into highlighting visibility. We also do that with the CITA, the International Conference on Audiovisual Translation. We organize every other year. So now in 2023 we are going to have one, and that's also a very beautiful moment, because we invite a lot of audiovisual translators, and we organize workshops, but we also invite other people from the industry, like for example dubbing directors, so that we can really have an understanding and synergies, and because sometimes, even though we work very closely together, we are really far apart, and that should change, so that the workflow is better and the end quality is better, and we can fight together for our collective rights, and etc., etc. It all boils down to the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, but it's such a remarkable work what you do, because as you said, otherwise we would be isolated with our computer, knowing, I mean, we don't even know what to say or not in when we sign NDAs. For example, the other day you wrote some kind of instructions or something which were really, really useful. I read them, of course. I'm not a member of Atrae because I'm not in Spain, but anyway, it was really, really helpful. And how can you become a member of your association? Do you have to reside in Spain, or is it available for anyone?
It's really available for everyone. Of course, people who work with the Spanish language would have a better use of our workshop, because we also organize workshops, and that are mainly held online. And our communications are mainly in Spanish, but we have members from France, we have members from England. So it's really, I think in Argentina we also have some members. I mean, it is focused on Spanish problematics, like our fight for copyright and so on and so forth, but it also belongs to a European like Federation of Association, AVT, I mentioned before. So really, it can be helpful for anyone, and it's open to anyone. And as far as how to become a member is concerned, you just write to Atrae. We have or in the contact info in our website, and just apply, basically apply. You don't even have to be an actual professional translator yet. You can be an aspiring audiovisual translator, like for example a student, because we have two types of membership. One is the professional one, the full one, where you have voting rights within the General Assemblies and all of that. And then you have an adherido one, like an adjacent one, that is half the price per year, and it's just so that you can keep up to date. You have voice, but you don't have a vote, so you can still participate in the mailing list. We have very active mailing lists where people ask like doubts and questions they have. For example, oh, I just got sent this contract or this NDA. Is this clause legal? Things like that. Or for example, even technical questions like, oh, I'm having this problem with subtitle edit. How can I fix this? And things like that. It's a very active community, and answers flow. Like it's not just, it's I think, this is not going to sound professional, but it's just really cute to see a lot of audiovisual translators. We are over 600 members now, so it's really beautiful to see people working together to improve the working conditions of all.
Yes, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Because the sense of community is what gives you, I mean, confidence to negotiate rates, or maybe to do a better job. I mean, sometimes you ask maybe a silly question or not, but you can't find the answer, and someone is there to help you, and that's amazing. I mean, because
not only the confidence, but also the knowledge, because sometimes we finish uni and we are a little lost usually because there's so much to take into account. It's just not a matter of invoicing, which in itself can be a nightmare. It's a matter of how to manage some conflicts with clients. When, for example, they say, they tell you this is the deadline, and then a week later they say, oh, actually, can you have it like 3 days before? And am I allowed to say no to that? How can I say no to that? And these kind of things that a newbie can feel like really overwhelmed with. And so I mean, it's just, it can be a lot.
Yes, it's a lot because nobody knows what lies behind everything we do. I mean, it's not just typing subtitles or dubbing scripts, or it's so much more. You have to be your own accountant, or maybe hire one, but you have to keep track of the deadlines. You work on many projects at the same time sometimes because you have to. It's imperative, and you. At least this happens to me sometimes, that some projects overlap, so you have to manage your time very efficiently, and it's not easy. I've been doing this for like 20-something years, but it's not easy, and it's not getting easier with time. It's getting more and more difficult because of the immediacy of, well, now with streaming and internet and everything. I mean, it's crazy. The deadlines are crazy sometimes. Yeah. So having the support of your peers and I don't know, maybe setting fair working conditions is paramount, I think, for us. as translators. And speaking of working conditions and so on, there's been a huge debate about machine translation and what happens and will be replaced by artificial intelligence. And well, it's something we hear almost every day. What's your association's position in this issue?
Well, we took a fairly strong stance. I think it was last year. We published on our website our position very much against machine translation for audiovisual translation. And I specify audiovisual translation because that's our field of specialization, not because I agree with machine translation in other fields, but our community, we made a letter, an open letter saying our position is never. It is not a good idea. We don't, as an association, as an organization, we don't support the use of machine translation because of many reasons. It's not just that machine translation is not accurate in general, which their engines are better than others, and sometimes it can seem doable. It can seem like a good tool. And I mean, I guess for very specific kind of content, it could be, but it's not worth it. It's just not worth the risk of contaminating other types, like the most part of our jobs. So you lose flavor, you lose the tone, you lose the differences, the idiosyncrasies of the characters. You lose ironies, you lose puns and wordplay. Humor gets diluted. Everything gets diluted. And even if a very good translator post-edits it, the thing is, first of all, most agencies that are working with audiovisual translation, machine translation, they ask their post editors to touch as little as possible the machine translated text. So that's one issue. But even if we could touch as much as possible, first, if you're going to do a good job, then you're translating from scratch. You are discarding pretty much everything. Maybe you're keeping a good morning for buenos dias, maybe. But then you are retranslating everything, so it's just not worth it. It's not a tool if it's not making my life any easier. But secondly, there's the issue of habituation. When you're exposed, this has been studied. When you are exposed to bad written text, you get used to bad written text, so you write worse. And an automatic translation is a bad written text. So you become like I don't know how to express it, but you become accustomed to very repetitive grammar forms, very plain vocabulary, and very simple structures, because that's what machine translation does. It doesn't take into account, for example, that Spanish allows for more subordinates that English does, for example, and things like that. So you just become a worse translator just by being exposed to automatic translation, and that's very sad. That's really sad, and it's scary. And there is this quote that I agree with to a certain point, is that machine translation only will replace those human that translate like machines. And I think that is true to an extent, but also I know that many companies do not care about quality as much as they do about making more and more money.
Yeah.
So that's a fight we have to fight. And I think it's not a fight only against these agencies, because these agencies are there just to take their cut. And the bigger the cut, the happier they are. Not all of them. There are good agencies out there, but some of them are just like, they are not going to listen to quality complaints. So what I think is our best bet for this battle is to go straight to the source, go straight to directors, screenwriters, and ask them to help us pressuring studios and agencies to actually respect their work. Because if you're a screenwriter and you've spent months, years of your life perfecting a script, that you want it to be this precise, with these words and these metaphors, or these ironies, or this humor, or this suspense, or whatever, do you really want it to be translated by a machine and then maybe revised by a human that is underpaid, so probably is not going to care a lot about what they are doing? So I think our safest bet is to go straight to the source and pressure people to respect art. And well, not only art, like any type of audiovisual translation that that we come across needs to be respected. It's just, I don't know, for me it's just so logical, and so I don't see the debate, and it makes me really sad that it's all a matter of money.
Yes, I think the question of money is there. Of course, as I always say, this is not against vendors or companies, or because without them we wouldn't be working, because we don't have the technology or everything that comes with. It's not just translating subtitles or dubbing scripts. It's translating and then I don't know how you say, burning the subtitles, yeah, into the picture and the image, and broadcasting or streaming. I mean, it's much more complex, and many people are involved in the process. But sometimes I feel that we are left for the very last minute. I mean, the translation is left for a very last minute, and it's a pity, because I mean, you need time to process what you are listening, what you are seeing, what you are reading, and it takes time. Yeah, and sometimes something that took 1 or 2 years in the making should be translated in 5 days. It's incredible.
It's crazy, because we are usually an afterthought, and that's why I also think we have to tackle and we have to be in contact with directors and screenwriters and the industry, the cinematic industry itself, and the advertising industry itself, because of, I mean, transcreation is also a part of audiovisual translation most of the time. Like, we have to be in contact with the source, so that not only they help us pressure agencies for better working conditions, because that impacts the quality, but also for them to think of us, to remember we exist and we are so valuable for them. Also, because if it's everything a matter of money, without us, they lose millions. They lose millions. Because, I mean, you would be confined to your own language if it were for translators. And if you release a movie, like, for example, in France, only a handful of countries could enjoy it if subtitles were not available or were not willing to translate anymore, because automatic translation, for example, has reduced the rates into a third part of what they used to make, and they cannot make and meet anymore, only for some people to get richer and richer. So it's just like, if it's a matter of money, just be wiser, because they need us. Without us, they don't make any money, because without translators, there is no translation. There can be automatic translation. I take issue calling that actual translation.
Yes, we invest so much in our training, and there are so many wonderful and excellent translators out there in any language. I mean, so when you hear there is a shortage of audiovisual translators, going back to what we were talking about, how do you feel? I see your face, so I can imagine how you feel.
Yes, the infamous talent crunch is one of my favorite topics ever. I laugh because because I don't want to cry. It's just it's ridiculous. It's an insult to. I understand there might be a talent crunch in certain languages. That is absolutely true. But some countries are fairly new to dubbing, for example, or the other way around. Some other countries are fairly new to subtitling, and they didn't professionalize audiovisual translation until very recently. So in those countries, I understand there can be a shortage of translators, or a talent crunch, or whatever you want to call it. But if that is true, what about the law of supply and demand? Why those translators are not really well paid because they are in high demand when there is no supply? No, usually in those countries they don't get paid much, and that's why there are not so many audiovisual translators. And that brings me to the countries where we have a lot of audiovisual translators, very well trained, and with many of them with a lot of experience. Then you cannot say there is a talent crunch, for example, in Spain, because, as I said, we are 600. I'm over 600 members at the moment, and we have, if I remember correctly, about 25 postgraduate degrees in audiovisual translation or localization. So where is the talent crunch in Spain? Why are you trying to shove down my throat machine translation with that excuse, when it's just not true? It's blatantly a lie. What they might be facing in countries like Spain, Germany, France, Italy, they might be facing a shortage of translators who are willing to accept awful working conditions. That I won't deny, and that I applaud, that they are finding a shortage of people willing to be exploited, willing to not make ends meet, willing to work hours and hours on end just to make a minimum wage. We conducted a survey with ABTE recently, and one of the we asked many questions all around Europe, and one of the main results, and most one of the more striking and the sadder, was a lot of people who are working as audiovisual translators full-time don't reach minimum wage in their countries. A lot. And the majority of them, of audiovisual translators, are just a little bit like above that, like not even, sometimes not even reaching the medium wage the average wage in their country for the same qualification type of job. How is that possible? Because we are in high demand. We, like, with all the digital platforms, the video on demand platforms, we are subtitling more than ever. We are dubbing more than ever. We are audio describing more than ever. We're subtitling for the deaf more than ever. What is happening? Why is this disconnect of what they need and what we get? Because another thing that we realize is that many people didn't see, haven't seen their rate increase since over 10 years, in the last 10 years. Not at all. It's not moved. Have you gone to the supermarket? Have you had
Tell me.
rent price?
I live in Argentina. Tell me about it. 100% inflation in 1 year. Yeah, it's incredible.
So they are going to face a talent crunch. Of course they are, if they keep treating us like that. Because I love translation, and I would like to be an audiovisual translator forever, but only if it's worth it. Only if I can. For me, it's a passion, but it's above all a job. I need to get fairly paid with good working conditions according to my qualification and my level of expertise. Otherwise, I have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, because I mean, what I'm not gonna do is, for the sake of my passion for audiovisual translation, I'm not gonna be exploited, and I don't think anybody should.
No, that's absolutely true. I totally agree with you, and it's something that we should advocate for at universities when people are getting the training in translation, or I teach at the university, and I always tell my students, I understand that you need to work and you are eager to work, but sometimes you have to weigh, see what's out there, and don't accept rates that are peanuts, please, because if no one accepts those rates, then the companies will say, okay, we'll have to do something. But if there's someone willing to accept, I know if I don't want to put the blame on those accepting low rates, because that's for another discussion, I think. But it's crazy, because you do it out of necessity, and well, you think it will never end, but it ends at some time, and and you are valued, and then you are getting paid what you should, or at least something closer to what you should be paid. So we should break the circle, you say, yes, or break this, yes.
What I always say to my students that are really eager to get into audiovisual translation, or any kind of translation for that matter, is that a good idea to not be forced into accepting low rates at the beginning is to diversify. If you just don't get enough good clients when you start, which is totally normal, it's a process, just diversify for a bit. I was teaching languages for several years until I got a solid client base that I could rely on a steady income without working 14 hours a day. Because a lot of people sometimes what they fail to understand, and I'm not talking specifically about translators, I'm talking about the whole industry, when we ask for fair rates and fair remuneration, is that we don't get the money we're asking for. That's not what comes, that's not our income, because we have taxes in Spain, a lot of them. We have our social security contributions. We have the internet connection, the software registration or whatever, the light, electricity bill. We have an accountant, because otherwise it gets really difficult. We have to take into account that because we are mostly freelancers, we don't get paid sick leave or paid vacation leave or paid maternity leave. So we have to set aside money for those circumstances as well.
Yes.
We don't get some countries don't get unemployment pay. Like if you don't get like any client for like a couple of months or so, that sometimes can happen. So we have to think of that and deduct that from what we are actually making every month. So we are not asking for a lot of money. We are asking for a fair amount for our qualifications and level of expertise. And it's just, it flabbergasts me how people can just dismiss, and I'm talking about some of the big companies, not all of them, but some of the big companies, and even some people just commenting on social media, how they can just say, no, but that is very expensive. Do you know what it entails? Do you know how long it takes? Do you know how much I have to translate in order to afford my rent after all of these expenses I just told you? It just keeps adding up, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's something you learn with time, and you learn from experience the hard way sometimes. But yes, we should take everything into account. We have so many contingencies, and we should be paid fairly. I always say, I don't know any translators who are millionaires, but we don't do this for the money. We do it because we love it, but we want to make a living out of it. So you should find a balance there, I think. And speaking about this, because I don't want to sound pessimistic and say, okay, this is all rubbish and companies are, but you said you had plans for collective bargaining. Could you achieve something in this matter, or are you just working in the process of
we're in the process of it, and this is at the European level. Last year, the European Commission launched this questionnaire, like this survey, asking if people in general, like European citizens, believe that freelancers, not just translators, freelancers, should be able to reach collective bargaining agreements, because right now in Europe, in most of European countries, if not all, because of the lack of competence, you cannot, as a freelancer, because you are considered a company. You're not considered an individual. So, for example, if Atrae, and this is the specific case of Spain, if Atrae were to suggest, because I keep talking about fair rate and I don't say what a fair rate is, because if Atrae says a fair rate is from here to here, don't accept lower, higher, like sky's the limit. But we cannot say specific figures because we could get fined. Like a couple of organizations in Spain, one of I think it was Basque translators, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, and the Proofreader Association, they got fined because they were just suggesting this is like a range of rates that you could work with so that you can make a living, and that went against the competence law. So the European Union launched this survey, and it was really people were in favor of it. Like, yes, freelancers should be able to go ahead with collective bargaining agreements, and they published this recommendation saying specifying which kind of freelancers could be affected by this new this new scope of collective bargaining, etc. And I think ABT and Atrae in particular did a very good job into promoting this survey, because we voted it like in mass, and they used not translators as an example. They used audiovisual translator as an example in the official document. So I think we made a little bit of noise.
Yeah.
What does it mean? It means that now each country has to go to their government, and this is going to be a legal process. It's going to be long. We are consulting with lawyers because, of course, we are audiovisual translator freelancers. We have no idea what we're talking about. So we're consulting with actual experts in the matter, because we need to approach our governments and say, hey, your laws are these. This is the recommendation by the European Commission. What now? So we have to do a little bit of lobbying there. And it's going to take a while, but we're on the right path, I feel.
Wow, that's amazing. We need something like that in Latin America. Our region is huge. I mean, well, like Europe. Europe is made up of so many countries. But yes, because I think I'm not saying we should unionize but if we fight together, I mean, it would be better. Here in Argentina, for example, we have suggested rates. Associations can publish suggested rates, and they do so. In the Certified Translators Association, and also ATI, which is an association for literary and audiovisual translators and technical translators who are not certified. So yes, we do have suggested rates. So it's a way of raising awareness and saying, okay, this is the minimum the minimum rate you should get for this task or this other task. So every time I hear we cannot discuss rates, I say, oh my God, because I'm so used to that. Yeah. Or at least to see lists of rates of different tasks, and it's really useful especially when you are at the very beginning, where you are newbie and you don't know how much you can charge for a certain job. Yeah. You have all there.
There's around it, because as individuals we can discuss like in a private level.
Yeah.
As an organization, no,
you can't. You're silenced. Oh, well, maybe it changes in the future. I don't know.
Not yet.
Not yet. And we talked about the role of agencies in fair conditions, and we know there are some great companies to work for, and some others who should I don't know, improve their working conditions. Do you think the studios should increase their budgets at the very beginning? It's a budgetary question, or is it because there is someone in the middle who takes the cut, as you said? What's your perception of this?
I think for each case, for each translation company or agency, and for each studio it's different. And I think it's a combination of factors. I don't think blame should be put in just one part of the chain, because it's a big chain. But of course, like we said that before, the fact that we are an afterthought for example, if we were talking specifically about TV production, the fact that we are an afterthought, and if audiovisual translation like dubbing and subtitling are an afterthought, just you don't want to know about accessibility. That's just So if we were not an afterthought, companies could yes, increase their budget, or maybe redistribute their budget, because right now somebody told me, or I read somewhere, I don't remember, that for a big production, like a movie, for example, the budget destined to or dedicated to translation, not specifically English to Spanish translation as a whole, was less than 1% of the budget. So, like, I mean, I should find and then share this study. But the thing is, yeah, studios should increase or redistribute their budget. But then some companies, some studios, some platforms pay decent rates for translation, and then they have different vendors, and some vendors pay the translators, of course, less than that, because they have to, as we said, they are very, very valuable part of the chain. Most of the times, like the project management, and not only the project management in a sense of the video and the translator. No. Also, the video production and the they are in this globalized world where companies and studios need so many languages and so many products. They are indispensable for project management, also for finding end clients. Like, I don't have the power as a single freelancer to reach, I don't know, certain big studios or whatever. They're not going to listen to me. They're going to listen to the companies, because they make their life easier because of the project management, etc. So they are important, and they need to take their cut, of course, because they need to fairly pay project managers there, which sometimes is also another issue. In-house translation project managers are usually not very well paid. There are companies there like pay really well, but others, it's just like minimum wage, and it's just, but why? It's just such an important and complex work to do. And of course they have, there is the proofreading, the quality management, etc. So yeah, of course they have to take a cut of it. I'm not against the middlemen. I'm against those middlemen that take advantage of their position, because what is not, I'm not going, of course I'm not going to name any names, but what is not normal is that one company, like one studio pays, like, I'm gonna make like ridiculous figures, ridiculous claims. Like, if one company pays 100 to two different vendors, and then the same translator that works for those vendors gets for the same end company makes 50 for one and 20 for the other one. How so? How so? I want to see numbers. I want them to justify why, because the first company budget is public. Budget for translation is public, so we know what they are paying to the middleman. Mm-hmm. So where is that extra money being lost, and why?
Mm.
Why should I be the exploited one? Mm. I don't know. There's so many questions there. So
it's insane.
Yeah, but if the studios improve their budget, but then the middlemen just take it into their pockets because they can, because translators need to work and accept those rates. Like, that's why I said blame cannot be just pinpointed in one direction. Also, I totally get that each circumstance is unique. And I totally get that some people just need to work. But it's also our responsibility to advocate for ourselves and to not forget that we are not without us, without translators. As I said before, without translators, translation companies cannot work. So we have the power there. They pretend, they convince us we don't. But if we unite and we go all in the same direction as far as possible, then we hold all the power.
Yeah,
and that's what,
and especially
we need to understand.
Yes, and especially for the newer generations.
Yeah.
The ones to come, because I mean, there's so much to be done. But that's why it's so important to be part of an association and to meet with your peers and to expose your doubts, your concerns, because we can help each other. I totally agree with that notion. I mean, when I started working, there were not so many associations, or I didn't know about associations, to be honest. And it was really lonely. And just like 10 years ago, well, social media had a lot to do with that, of course.
Yeah.
I got more acquainted and I met wonderful people online, maybe, I mean, not personally, but I mean, the feedback is amazing, and you can, I mean, you grow as a professional translator as well. So I think everything you do is wonderful. I love it. I follow you on Twitter, and I always read. I will say it again. I love when you say "Quién traduce?" Who's the translator here? Because I think visibility is really, really important for us. So, well, we've come to an end because we've been talking for nearly an hour now, and this will be cut. Yeah, because you're so passionate. I love it. So, thank you, Iris, for your time, for being here. We, on behalf of the division, we want to thank you for your time. It was wonderful talking to you. No, that's okay. It's a pleasure for us. So thank you for being there, and I hope I see you sometime in the future.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Was it cool? Was it cool or what? Yes, we had a lot to discuss. Well, as I said, this was the last one of the year, but stay tuned because next year, maybe in January or February, we will have some more Instagram Lives, and throughout the year, of course. I'd like to take this very last minutes to thank you all for being there, for your support, your nice comments. I mean, it's a pleasure to host these Instagram Lives. Thank you to the Audiovisual Division. I hope you had a wonderful end of the year. Happy holidays, and see you next year. Bye-bye.